Welcome to this next episode of Psychics and Psychos. Welcome, Denise. This is my partner, Denise Siegel, astrologer extraordinaire. I'd say astrologer to the stars, but that's kind of redundant, isn't it? I mean,
well, I guess it's literal and figurative.
right. Right. So today we're doing episode 3 of season 2, and it's actually a continuation of what is commonly referred to as the Doomsday Murders, but there's so much to it more.
Right.
Lori Vallow and
Right. Chad Daybell.
Yeah, the dynamic duo. Before we start, Denise, I always think we should make it explicit that we are not mental health professionals. We are armchair psychologists. This is opinion and entertainment rooted in intuition and psychic skills, right?
Right.
And we're not diagnosing anybody. We're just making personal observations. So,
right.
Having said that, when last we spoke, we left the biography and childhood, the backgrounds, setting up a foundation for all of this of Lori and Chad. And there is a third person involved in this. And we should make it clear that what we're going to do is give you information and eventually look at their astrological charts, maybe the charts of some of the victims, and maybe read a few tarot cards, but that will come in a different episode. There's a lot to parse here. A lot of deaths, a lot of crimes committed by these two, and their whole worldview is just crazy. So the third person that's involved peripherally, well, actively involved in this, is Lori's brother, Alex Cox.
Right.
And the reason he wasn't indicted and charged is because he died. And we were just discussing his death, which ostensibly was natural causes, but some people wonder. So he was a weird guy. This is a description from their cousin. This is from an interview I watched with their cousin. He was a weird guy. He was easy to manipulate, and Lori was a manipulator extraordinaire. The cousin would visit in the summertime, if you recall from our last 2 episodes. She would come with her family and spend time, and Lori's family were the cousins everybody enjoyed visiting because they were Mormon but not Mormon. They were not nearly as strict as the rest of the family, the extended family. Carte blanche at that house. She said their home was sexually charged. That, for example, Lori would parade around the house in a very brief bikini to Sunday brunch with her father and brothers. She would sit on her brother Alex's lap to eat lunch.
It's fucking weird.
Oh, well, just wait. She married young. And I'm sorry, she did marry him, but Alex too married young. And his wife almost immediately left him. She would not say why other than sexual dynamics. Alex had an accident, and I think this is really important event here. He had an accident at the age of 17, and he was never the same again. He walked away from it. It was a car wreck, and he hit his head, and it was never the same again. He just walked away from this damaged car, did not seek medical treatment, and never filed an insurance claim. It was just such an odd situation. But after this event, he was incapable of keeping a job. He mostly couch surfed. He didn't have his own place. He went from pillar to post, sleeping on people's couches. He was not able to maintain long-term relationships. He also believed he was above the law, which, I think that was in the DNA because their father was that way. He thought he was special, as did Lori, as did their father, the sovereign citizen, His father, Barry, okay, reading my handwriting. He manipulated his tax returns. For example, he put the family homes deed in Alex's name to avoid having to pay money to the IRS because they wanted to liquidate his assets to pay for unpaid taxes. So
Right.
he made it look like the house belonged to his son. And so, no honor amongst thieves, Alex turned around and refinanced the house and kept the money.
Wow.
So Alex shot Charles Vallow. He shot Lori's husband, Charles, twice in their new house in Arizona, actually in the dance room. Lori had a room relegated in every home she lived in, her own room, completely empty with mirrors so she could dance. So,
What kind of dance did she do?
well, I was going to say, by the way, she wasn't a dancer. This is just, I don't know, you know.
She liked to look at herself.
Yes, yes, indeed. So he got away with this. I think we've talked about it. Well, we're going to talk about it if we haven't gone into enormous detail yet. Let's see here. In October or November of the summer of 2019, he phoned Tammy. And well, his phone was at Tammy's house. They were tracing his phone. It's all coming back to me. There's so much. I have almost 200 pages of notes here. I know, it's crazy, right? It's been months of researching this. So after the fact, they followed Alex's telephone. You know, he would have been dead by the time they got around to following his phone, which is why I say he's the third individual complicit in these crimes. They traced his phone to Brandon, the husband of their niece, who was shot at from a car. Remember we talked about that? Alex was in that exact neighborhood. They traced his phone to Tammy's house when she was shot at from her driveway. They traced it again to her house area when she died, the night she died.
Right.
They traced his phone to the burial sites of the children who were later found. In November 24th of 2019, Chad gave Alex a patriarchal blessing. Now, this is only significant. Why do we care? We don't. But this was very significant to him. Chad was his religious guru. He believed in these sorts of rituals. This is a manipulation. He believed that Chad and Lori needed his help. He would do anything at the drop of a hat. Lori would call him up, including murder. He would do anything to help her. He called himself a prophet. Chad told him he was also a prophet.
Was he special?
And a hero and a future messenger of God. So this is the message he's getting from Chad and Lori. And this is backed up by fact because all of it is recorded on Lori's iCloud. So December 12th of 2019, Alex suddenly died. The diagnosis was pulmonary emboli, blood clots in the lungs. Well, he had not really had anything wrong with him. It was very unexpected. And it was also identical to the way that Lori's ex-husband, Joe Ryan, died. I'm just saying.
Wasn't he young too? Wasn't he
early middle age?
Right.
Yeah.
That's also unusual, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is reason to wonder, was it stress? Because the day before he dropped dead, he was told by Lori and Chad that Tammy was being exhumed. The body was being exhumed. And I'm not spoiling anything to say that the suspicion is that Alex came to the rescue when they called and said they needed help and that he helped to smother Tammy. He told Zulema, his new wife, that Lori talked him into marrying. They didn't want to get married. They had no attraction to each other. Lori manufactured this marriage. And Zulema told later that the day before he dropped dead, Alex said, Lori and Chad are going to make me the fall guy.
Wow.
Yeah. Lori's cousin, Megan, the one who's giving a lot of this information, she's quoted. So this is not me. This is her saying this, and I quote, "You'll never convince me he died a natural death."
Right.
And just as a little peripheral, an aside, remember that they had an older sister, Stacy, who died, and her father was medicating herself with hypodermic and medicating her with hypodermics while she was ill. Megan had a dream that Stacy came to her, and Stacy said, "I didn't do myself in," because that's what they said. We won't use the word, but the allegation of self-harm was how they explained away the death of Stacy. She had been ill, but that she did it to free herself from her illness was the story.
Right.
And she came in a dream to her cousin and said,
Mm-mm.
I didn't do that. Okay, so let's talk about the for sure murders that were committed. Hope you've got a comfortable chair and a drink, because this just goes on.
Yes.
So the first was Charles Vallow. By the summer of 2019, Lori had already left Charles. She claimed that she had drugged him occasionally. She told people that she drugged him to make him more pliable to her will.
Wow.
You know, she just liked everything in control, right? She was in Arizona with Alex, you know, her roommate, and Charles had been out of town, and he came home to find himself completely locked out of his house. There is a really interesting video on YouTube if you're interested. It's a police body cam video.
Mm-hmm.
So Charles gets to the house, and I guess they were on the outs, and he was trying to come and get stuff. She had all his stuff still. And
Right.
he was worried about the children.
Sure.
And
It should have been.
yeah, really. He said that, okay, he tells the police this story. He said, "I can't get into this house. This is my house. I've been away on business. I come back. I'm locked out. Nobody appears to be home. She's not answering her phone. I'm worried about her mental health." And the police, now this is a small Mormon community, the police say, "Well, what's the problem?" And he says, "Well, she's been threatening me. She says that I'm possessed by dark spirits. She says my name is no longer Charles Vallow. My name is Ned Schneider."
That's right.
She says that she's a god, and that she was going to kill him, Charles, and that if he got in her way for custody or possessions or whatever, she would kill him. And she then called him not only Ned Schneider, she called him Hiplos, and she told him he was a zombie. And so he's talking to the police, and the police are looking at him like, who's the crazy one?
Right. Right.
He was. It's an interesting video.
I saw that video before. I've seen
he's
that.
near tears, isn't he? He's
really upset. Yeah.
Really upset. Really, really upset.
And the cops seem kind of skeptical of the whole thing.
Well, yeah, they're very skeptical. And
right.
what brought this all to a head was that Charles, who was really, truly worried about her mental health and the safety of the children, he emailed Tammy, Chad's wife, and told Tammy, "Your husband and my wife are having an affair."
Right.
And she blocked him.
Wow.
Yeah. So Charles was worried that Lori was saying things like, she doesn't need to eat, she doesn't need to use the bathroom, and that Jesus is her personal friend that she talks to every day like he's there. Right? Like she's hallucinating that he's there. So Charles asked Lori's brother, Adam, this is her other brother, Adam, to help and maybe do an intervention, get the family together and do an intervention. You need help. And he planned to record all of this stuff and show it to the elders of the church, because she was actually, while all this was going on, she had them bamboozled. She was leading church groups. She was an example, a role model for women in their particular branch of the church, and everyone thought she was great. Nobody believed what he was saying. She had all these people crazy, you know. So he filed for divorce, and when he came back from the trip and he went to the house, when he talked to the cops, he told them that not only was she not there, the children were missing. This is the crazy stuff she's saying. She's done something with my personal belongings. She has sold my truck. She has taken $35,000 out of our bank account. And they obviously didn't believe them. You've watched it, you know. So he
Yeah.
planned on meeting with Tammy, but Tammy blocked him. And
Mm.
so the next day, the plan was he was coming to the house to pick up JJ, the little boy, to
Right.
take him to school. And this would be July 11th, 2019. And when he went into the house, something happened. There are conflicting stories. The daughter was in a back room and heard fighting, shouting, and physical fighting going on between Charles
Right. I
and
remember
Alex,
that.
the brother.
Right.
She grabbed a baseball bat and went into the room where they were. And the story is, the wrong story is that Charles grabbed the baseball bat off of her and threatened Alex, and he had to shoot him in self-defense.
Right. Right.
But that he was ambushed when he came in, and he was shot once standing and once while he was down on the ground.
Wow.
And there was a 45-minute delay in them calling 911.
Right.
So Charles died in Lori's dance room. And Alex
Wow.
told the police it was self-defense. And later, the police found texts 2 days before the shooting, telling Alex, from Lori to Alex, telling him to behave like Nephi and kill the wicked man. This is some religious
Right.
avenging angel or something. And so her husband is dead on the floor in a pool of blood. Her brother is taking responsibility for it.
Right.
She leaves before the cops ever get there. She leaves to take the kids to school, but she stops for fast food and she goes and picks up a few things at the market or the store. And so, 45 minutes go by. She shows back up, and the police are incredulous in a way because her attitude is like, "Oh yeah, he's dead." Yeah. So
too bad. Right.
Yeah.
She's
so
very
she ran
cold.
these errands, no hurry home. She's got her daughter Tylee with her. Very
Right.
casual, very calm, dismissive. After the cops left, they're telling her, "Oh, we're really sorry." She's laughing. "Oh, the neighbors. What are the neighbors going to make of this?" So the cops leave, and what did the grieving widow do? She had a barbecue that afternoon at the house.
Wow.
She told Colby, now Colby is the son, the older son who no longer lives with her, that Charles had a heart attack. She calls him up on the phone. Yeah.
Wow.
What she said. And Alex told his wife, his new wife, Zulema, "Don't feel bad about Charles. He was a zombie."
Wow.
Lori was furious a little bit later when she found out that Charles, behind her back, had rewritten his insurance policy and left all the money to his, would it be his sister, Kay,
Wow.
the one who was the original foster mother of the little boy.
Wow.
The one who eventually triggered the whole investigation by calling for a welfare check. And
wow.
I guess he was hoping that she would get custody of the children. And
Right.
so,
Right.
So there are phone call recordings of Lori losing it because she's not getting the money.
Wow.
So she got.
How much money were you talking about? Like $250,000 or?
Yeah, it was $1 million, I think.
$1 million.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So she started to not let Kay talk to JJ on the phone. They had FaceTime conversations on a regular basis, and she would immediately start to interfere so that he would be talking and she'd cut it short, and then the next time cut it even shorter, and the next time just say hello and go away. And then finally Kate couldn't find him, couldn't get through to him at all. They'd make excuses. He's not home, he's here, he's there, he can't come to the phone, he doesn't feel well. JJ sort of disappeared from the scene. So right. Lori didn't even know which mortuary Charles' body was taken to. She didn't let JJ go to the funeral. She didn't attend the funeral.
Wow.
So now this was the summer of 2019. Now we're in the autumn of 2019, and they have record of her making online purchases. She brought 2 wedding rings. She broke up the relationship, the marriage between her niece Melanie, who was her acolyte, and Melanie's husband Brandon Boudreau, the one who eventually got shot at, right?
Wow.
She convinced Alex and Zulema to get married. You know, this is all chronology, and there's a lot of overlap. So she orchestrated that. She
Why?
began.
Why did she
Pardon me?
want them to get married?
Well, I think to have more control over Alex. She already had control over him. Zulema was another acolyte. There was a little group of 7 women, remember,
Right.
who did rituals with her. Melanie, the niece, was one. Zulema was another. And I think
She had her
that
own
it
little
was a
coven.
way to implicate people, involve them peripherally,
Right.
you know, and control them.
And control them. Yeah. She
Yeah.
wanted to be it seems like she also kind of had fantasies of being some kind of cult leader.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, we're
Yeah.
going to talk about that because it's unbelievable. Anyway, she began to call her brother Adam a zombie. Uh-oh, if I were Adam, I'd
Be scared.
my affairs were in order. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Then, and this is very sad, then she started saying that her daughter and son were zombies. They were
I
dark
know.
and they
I
were
know.
zombies. This is a 16-year-old girl and a little boy who was what, 8, I think?
And he was also autistic, wasn't he?
He was autistic, yeah.
That's terrible.
She got in touch with the school and told the school, a little boy's school, that they were moving and she had withdrawn him from school.
Wow.
And in 2019, August, she, the kids, and her brother Alex, the happy family, they moved to Rexburg, where Chad lived, the Idaho town that was a Mormon bastion. Remember,
Wow.
it was going to be like Salt Lake City if anything happened to Salt Lake City.
Yeah, like what's going to happen to Salt Lake City?
Well, at the apocalypse, you know.
Oh, because
that's
sure.
Yeah.
Why would, okay, that doesn't still make any sense, but anyway.
Well, the apocalypse is supposed to be, it actually is supposed to be 7 years of chaos and war and everything leading up to the final denouement of the whole
I think
thing.
we're in that apocalypse right now, but anyway, but why would Salt Lake be any less safe than where they were? I mean, if it's the apocalypse.
Well, are you asking me to explain why they weren't crazy?
No, I'm just, what was it about this particular area that they thought was so special? I'm curious.
Well, I think the place was 80% Mormon, and Idaho.
So is Salt Lake probably. So is Salt Lake City probably too.
Oh yeah, I bet it's more. Idaho has a particular white Christian nationalist, survivalist, apocalyptic bent. It is a haven of people who believe this sort of stuff, full of survivalists, you know. And
right, I know. Yeah.
I think
because they have more guns, maybe they're going to fight out the apocalypse or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So September 8th of 2019, we have murder number 2 that we know of, the murder of Tylee.
The little girl.
The 16-year-old daughter,
right.
who by all accounts was a nice,
very nice
kid.
Nice kid, yeah. Yeah, she was.
They took her on a trip. This is so cynical and evil. They took her on a car trip, and they took photos of them posing. They went to...
She's truly evil, this woman. She is truly evil.
Yeah.
Right, or maybe they went to, I thought they maybe went to the Grand Canyon. Did they go to the Grand Canyon?
I think it was part of it, but not all of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a road trip. And
so it was her last meal.
What was her last meal?
This was her last.
Her last hurrah.
Her last hurrah. Right.
Yeah. So there's photos of it with Lori and the children and Alex. And on the last day that Tylee was seen alive was September 8th. The next day, September 9th, Alex's phone was in Chad's backyard. So what were they doing? Chad, I'll tell you what they were doing. There's a record of this. Chad called his wife Tammy at work, and said, I just want you to know, people might ask you what I'm doing in the backyard right now digging. I saw a big old raccoon.
Oh,
on
that's
the
right.
fence,
That's
and
right. I remember
shot
that
it,
story.
and
Right.
I'm burying the raccoon. They had a pet cemetery in the back, so he buried her. That's what at first was believed. It's worse than that. We'll talk about it. So October, that was September. October,
That could be worse than that.
Colby, pardon me.
Yeah. How does it get worse than that? But anyway, go ahead.
Oh, this is only number 2.
I know.
Yeah.
No, I know.
Colby, the oldest son, got texts from Tylee's phone. Nobody
Right.
had seen her, but he gets texts from her phone telling him she was too busy to reply to him. And he said this didn't sound like her.
Right.
So
of course.
Lori began telling people that 16-year-old Kylie, who had not graduated from high school, was attending BYU. So now JJ, this is number 3. So Chad started telling people he had a feeling, because he was a prophet.
Oh,
that
yeah, of course.
JJ was going to die soon.
Oh.
And the
That's
neighbors saw JJ in the complex where Lori had rented a place. He was often left unattended outside for hours and hours, and he wasn't really capable of babysitting himself,
Right. He was.
Yeah.
It was pretty
Yeah.
severely autistic, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of medium severe. He was functional, but he needed a lot of help. And he was out there without any kind of adult supervision at all. And to me, this is just so terrible. I think I have it written down later, but it comes to mind. He had a service dog that he loved. She got rid of it.
What?
Yeah. So he was last seen by Melanie Gibbs, friend of Lori's, Melanie Gibbs' boyfriend. He was over at the house sitting talking, and he saw Alex carry JJ into the house and upstairs and said, he's asleep. Was he? There's question about that.
So maybe he was killed outside and brought into the house. Wow.
Yeah. Lori told friends that she might lie and tell people that she had breast cancer.
Wait, who's going to lie and say?
Lori started telling her close friends that she might start telling everyone she had breast cancer in order to get Kay, the relative who was the original foster mother, to get her to feel bad for her and to take JJ off her hands.
Wow.
I know, it just never ends. And the day after this last sighting of JJ, Alex's phone was in Chad's backyard. So that day, where the phone was in the backyard, JJ hadn't been seen in 12 hours, 24 hours. Lori withdrew JJ officially from school and said, even if we don't move, we're going to homeschool. Lori continued to collect the kids' Social Security payments for months. They got money because their father had died, their father. JJ, because of his condition, and Kylie was still, is that her name? Do I have that right? Tylee was still under 18 and was getting Social Security because her father had died, survivors benefits.
Yeah, my mom got that.
Yeah.
That's my dad.
Chad and Alex were seen on CCTV loading all of the children's clothes, belongings, toys, everything into a storage unit. And so then we go on to the next death, Tammy, Chad's wife. So back up to February. Let's back up a little bit in this narrative. February 2019, Chad told a neighbor that he had visions that Tammy would die before her next birthday.
Wow.
So they're setting up the scene. And
he's really stupid as well, because that is something that, like, I don't want to name names, but this seems to be a pattern among extreme narcissists, that they telegraph what they're going to do. And anybody who has any kind of understanding of psychology could read that he's thinking about this, is on his mind, and he's telling people what he's going to do.
People don't forget those kinds of things.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
It's a very extreme thing to say about someone. Anyway.
So this started at the beginning of the year, February of 2019. All this
Right.
stuff with the kids disappearing went down in the late fall of 2019. Now we're in October 9th.
Right.
Tammy gets shot at in her driveway by a masked man.
Her brother.
Well, that's the
Boy's
assumption.
brother. Yeah.
She assumed that it must be some sort of a prank.
A prank.
And
Wow.
the police told her it was a prank.
Are you serious? Shooting at someone
Well,
is a
I
prank.
wouldn't make this up. I swear. That's what the police
Those
the
police
report.
officers should be suspended without pay.
I guess not. That was the
And
9th.
retrained.
That was the 9th, right? 10 days later, on the 19th, Tammy, who was 49, was found dead in bed. Chad claimed that she went to bed with a horrible cough and he was really worried about her.
Yeah, I bet.
He claimed that she had been suffering from low blood pressure and seizures from her homeopathic medicines.
Neither one of those things would kill you, by the way.
No medical record. Well, you could die of a seizure. You could.
I mean, you could.
But not,
Not most of them you wouldn't. And also seizures are very specific.
Yeah,
and there's
no medical records of her ever going to the doctor and being diagnosed. He got $529,000 in life insurance. Ka-ching.
How much?
$529,000, $500,000.
$500,000, right?
The funeral was already arranged before she died. Like neighbors and friends were like, "Whoa, that was quick to have such an elaborate funeral, readings and flowers and casket, everything all prepared like the next day."
Wow.
Yeah, and the neighbor felt it was the neighbor believed it was already planned. It was just really odd. Chad was businesslike about the whole thing. He didn't seem upset. It seemed like, checking it off his calendar, his to-do list.
Wow.
And the whole thing didn't ring true when he was at the funeral. He wasn't crying.
Can I ask a question about Chad?
Oh, yeah.
Who was supporting the family? Was it the wife or was it Chad?
They both worked, and she had a job outside the home. I forget what it was she did, but they worked together on the publishing company that they owned. And it took a long time, but they finally were making money on the publishing. Not rich, but making money. Yeah.
Right. So she was probably his, I'm going to intuitively feel like she was probably the main breadwinner too, right?
Yeah.
Is that why he stayed married to her? Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he looked like he was trying to cry, one of those things where you're wiping the tears that don't exist away.
Right. The crocodile tears.
Right. He gave the eulogy, and the whole eulogy was all about how Tammy had been depressed and difficult to live with.
Oh, nice. That's a great thing to talk about. Mm-hmm.
He then, at her funeral, this is possibly my favorite part of this entire saga because it's so unbelievable. At her funeral, he took his brother aside and said, "I've met a widow. We're getting married."
That's insane.
Just insane. And he made sure there was no autopsy.
Of course.
But he didn't have her cremated. That was his fatal flaw.
Right. Yeah, they had her exhumed. Right.
And later, as we have alluded to, she was exhumed.
Right.
And an autopsy was done and she died of asphyxiation.
Right.
Then the cops found texts between Lori and Chad that said, "Tammy is in limbo. Tammy is possessed. Tammy is a zombie." And then, of course, Tammy was
dead. Tammy is dead.
That's right. Alex's phone was traced to Tammy's house on the day of the pot shot and on the night that she died. The cops found an AR-15 belonging to Alex that looked like Tammy's description of the gun she saw in the hands of the masked man. And the cops said that one shot missed and the second shot jammed. She was very lucky.
Well, not for long.
No. Zulema was with Lori and Melanie, the niece, on the night of the shooting, the attempted shooting. They were doing a casting on Tammy, trying to drive out the devil, the evil darkness out of Tammy, probably in conjunction thinking she would be killed, right?
Right.
Yeah. Alex called Lori and told him I missed. And Lori was overheard because her friends were over doing the casting. There
Right.
are eyewitnesses. She lost it on the phone. She called him an idiot. You can't do anything by yourself. You need me to, berating him.
Hmm.
And Chad introduced Lori to his children the day after their mother's funeral.
Wow.
Yeah. A week after that introduction, he told the neighbor, "This is Lori. This is the woman I'm going to marry."
Good Lord.
And the neighbor said it was awkward.
Yeah.
And the neighbors describing them as like teenagers all over themselves, giggling and public displays of affection. It made the
Oh,
neighbor
man.
very uncomfortable. A week after, I mean, his wife's not even cold in the grave yet. And then Chad told the neighbor that Lori had a daughter who had recently died.
Wow.
Lori was saying, "Oh, my high school not yet graduated daughter is
It's
at
at BYU.
Young University."
And he told them that she was dead.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He claimed that Tammy's spirit appeared to him at the cemetery and told him, "Honey, it's time to move on."
Oh, yeah, I bet she did that. Yeah.
And that he and Lori had been attracted to each other because they were bonding over their recently dead spouses.
Oh, yeah, that's conveniently dead.
And then he told people that Lori was an empty nester, that they had no children. Now he's got 5 kids.
Wow.
The youngest is, I believe, still in high school, but most of them are young adults. And, she very conveniently only had that adult son that had moved out of the house. But her other 2 children, so they're saying
were
they
inconvenient.
had no children, that Lori had no children.
Wow.
2 months after Tylee and JJ disappeared, and 2 weeks after Tammy died, they were married in Hawaii on the beach. And Chad said to his children, "Don't tell your grandmother."
Don't tell your grandmother.
Don't tell your grandmother. He was afraid of his mother. Don't tell your grandmother. And he later revealed that Lori ordered 2 wedding rings, as we've discussed, and that happened 2 months before Tammy died.
Right.
And on the day of Tammy's burial, Lori was online looking at wedding dresses.
Wow.
So now we're going to back up a little bit again and go to the summer. This is all happening in the late fall of 2019. But there's so many deaths that they overlap. So in the summer of 2019, Brandon Boudreaux, this is the estranged husband of Lori's niece, Melanie. And Melanie is under her wing as part of her little cult, right? She's brainwashed. He was shot at, driving home from work, shot at from a Jeep, and in the town of Gilbert, Arizona, and it missed his head by inches. Wow. And he saw the car rushing away, and he recognized the Jeep. It was registered to Charles, and it was usually driven by Tylee. But Charles was dead, and Tylee was, at Brigham Young.
Right.
Yeah. So his estranged wife, Lori's niece, Melanie, was very involved with her Aunt Lori's crazy beliefs since about a year previously.
How old was this woman? This young.
I think they're in their early 20s or mid-20s.
Yeah,
not terribly old.
Right. That's usually the kind of people that get involved in cults.
Yeah, and she had gone off the rails and started making Brandon stockpile supplies for the end of the world. She told people that Lori said Tylee, the daughter, was possessed and a zombie. And she demanded a divorce, and this was right before he was shot at. Right. The divorce blindsided him. The request for a divorce completely blindsided him. That he had no idea that there was a problem. He became convinced that there was a connection to Lori's, as he called it, his aunt-in-law. Lori's cult was all connected. Charles's death, the children's disappearance, and the shooting to him.
Of course.
At him. Well, many people did not see the connection or denied it. So he was.
Well, but he was enough on the outside that he could see it. Yeah.
He wasn't
Anybody.
related by blood. That's always
Right.
helpful, right? The next February. So these deaths, you know, Tammy, all this, the wedding in Hawaii are in late 2019. February of 2020, he filed a document in court alleging that the pot shot was an attempt to collect life insurance on him.
I'm sure.
And that the gunman, this is in court, the gunman was probably Alex.
Yeah.
Later, the cops did track Alex's phone to Brandon's, right?
Alex is
And
really a dumb guy in general.
they're all not too with it.
Right. They're not, none of them are very smart, but he also, not only is he dumb, he's a bad shot too. I mean, thank God, but he's shot at a lot of people that he misses. He doesn't seem to be able to.
Well, only two, Denise. Only two.
Well, yeah,
So,
but still, it's
around
crazy.
the time of the shooting, the police were able to come up with phone records that showed that Alex and Lori were communicating back and forth a lot during that time. So,
Right. Sure.
so those are the main murders. There is, of course, the suspicion about Joe Ryan and then, of course, Alex, who both died, Alex Cox, who both died
Oh, I'm sure they were murdered.
in
Why not?
almost identical ways. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they were killed. I'm sure. I mean,
Well, another important feature to just keep in mind, just a little factoid to tuck in the back pocket. Poisonings, we looked it up, you guys. There are poisons that can mimic create pulmonary emboli, and women are more likely
to
lose
poison.
yeah,
That's
than
right.
any other person. So
Right.
we're at a kind of a natural change of course here. We're going into the investigations, and it's pretty interesting. Do you want to start? Let's see how much information I have here. I don't want to. I suppose we could start, and then if we need to break, we can just do the next.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Pick
Yeah.
it up. I know this story is elaborate. We're not even yet out like doing the astrology and the tarot cards, but you have to follow all the details of these cases because they're unbelievable. Really unbelievable.
Well, also, there's so many people involved.
Yeah.
And it's really like, this is really kind of more of a cult. This is very similar to like the Manson murders or something in terms of it being a cult mentality and the cult leaders calling for the murders and all this. I mean, it's more crazy than that.
This is the book that I used. I read this book. I took notes on this book, and the author of this book did a great job. A young woman who just got interested in it and decided to do it. She actually has some stuff from Dr. Stephen Hassan, who is the cult expert, right?
Oh, right.
He wrote The Cult of Trump, too. Yeah.
I see. Right.
Yeah.
I've heard of him.
He's an expert on cult behavior, cult luring in. And then when they break the connection, when they do the deprogramming, he's an expert on that. So, okay, so let's quickly look at the investigation. So now we're in November, late November of 2019. JJ has disappeared. Tylee's at Brigham Young. Tammy is dead. Yeah. The cast, the list of characters is diminishing by the day. So Kay requests a welfare check on JJ. She's frustrated, and now she's very worried because Lori is not letting her talk, making excuses. She calls for FaceTime, not working. So the cops show up at Lori's place, and Alex and Chad are in the house. And at this point, they kind of know there's something going on between Lori and Chad. They don't really know what they smell something fishy, but they don't really know what it is. So their alarms are finally somebody is taking this seriously. And Alex tells the cops, "Oh, JJ's with his grandmother Kay." Now the cops
they know
it's a lie.
That's not true, right?
Because she requested the welfare check. Chad is asked by the cops, "Who are you?" They know who he is, but he says he's a friend of Alex, and he hardly knows Lori. They
Wow.
it was arranged marriage. I don't know. And the cops know that this is a lie. So now their alarm bells are ringing.
Right.
They call Lori, and she says that her friend Melanie Gibbs has JJ, and the cops know this is a lie because they call Melanie Gibbs and she says, "What are you talking about?"
Right. Right.
So she hasn't seen JJ in months. So that night, Chad and Lori are observed by neighbors packing a truck.
Right.
And the next day, the cops and the FBI return with a warrant, and everybody is gone. So by December, they're putting 2 to 2 together, and they realize that Tylee and JJ are missing. This is not,
Right.
they're not just visiting somebody. At one point, they were told, well, you can't talk to JJ. He's at the movies. We can't interrupt the movie in the theater,
Wow.
So they returned to Hawaii. It's where they absconded to. They were living in a fancy gated community off of Tammy's life insurance money. And when they filled out the application for the townhouse, they said that they had no children.
Well,
so
they did.
An East Idaho reporter finds them, and this guy deserves some sort of journalism award, and he features heavily on one of the original Dateline episodes. Now we're going to talk a little bit about that later, but he's now doing quite a bit on YouTube reporting true crime. He's very good. He's a good reporter. So that's kind of a curious little side effect of this whole thing is it really kickstarted his career, made him nationally known.
Yeah.
Dateline, Keith Morrison, they were able to find them in Hawaii, and they ambushed them outside their
I remember that
townhouse, walking to the beach one day, and oh my God, it was a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
December 6th, the Idaho cops request a warrant for the Jeep that belonged to Tylee. That was involved in the shooting of Brandon. And Melanie Gibb, former friend of Lori at this point, gets in touch with the Idaho police again and said, look, Lori told me to lie about the whereabouts of JJ, and I will put that in an affidavit if you need it. So the real energy behind all of this revved up when Idaho and Arizona pooled their resources. The investigations joined up and the prosecutors got together, and that's when they exhumed Tammy and knew she'd been murdered. December 20th of 2019, the Rexburg cops, this is a little Idaho town, they announced that the children are officially missing and they ask for public help. And the cops link the missing children to the death of Tammy and the fact that Chad and Lori are missing. And they become official persons of interest, and their cult-like beliefs become a national story. On December 23rd, the Daybell family makes an official statement. Quote, Chad Daybell was a loving husband, and he has the support of his children in this matter. Lori is a devoted mother who resents assertions to the contrary. The allegations will be addressed once they move beyond speculation and rumor.
Yeah, right.
So Colby, the older son, and the Woodcocks. Now this is
I remember Colby didn't believe that anything was wrong at the beginning. He didn't.
Well, he's
starting to change. Right.
Yeah. And Kay and her husband, the Woodcocks, and Chad's brother Matt and his wife Heather, who incidentally, I don't think I mentioned this, but this is really funny. There are extensive interviews with Heather. Interesting woman. I got a lot of my information from her interviews. And one of the things that she revealed was that Matt and she had moved to Idaho years ago to get away from his family. And when Chad called them up and said they were moving to Idaho to the town of Rexburg, Matt, his brother, freaked out. They did not want the influence of the family, like spiders back in their lives. And then Chad bought a house right down the street from them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's terrible. And he hated Heather, his sister-in-law, because she's very strong and very outspoken. Right. So anyway, Lori, they got together. Matt, Heather,
and probably didn't believe he was special.
they knew he had problems. They're
Right.
pretty educated. And they're still devout Mormons. And
Right, but they
tend
knew
to
he
see
was off his
everything.
rocker.
They knew that she
I kind of see Chad as sort of a big giant loser, kind of, who basically, you know, got some poor sap of a woman to marry him and support him with his fantasies and his books and his crazy shit. And she wasn't that hot. And once he got a little bit taste of a little bit of success, he killed her and married someone he thought was hot.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, he was always calling Lori his goddess.
Right.
So the son, Aunt Kay and her husband, the Woodcocks, Chad's brother Matt and his wife Heather, they did a public, like a press conference, and spoke directly to Lori and Chad and asked them to return the children. They still don't really know what happened to these children.
Did they find their bodies?
Well, no. I mean, when they made this press.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say.
So they're still pleading for the return.
Right. They think they might be missing and sort of.
Yeah. I don't think
they're dead yet.
I think in their heart of hearts they knew.
They just couldn't, but they couldn't believe it. It's
Right.
just too hard to believe. Yeah, I understand that.
So then again, in January, they do another press conference, and Kay and her husband offer $25,000 reward for the return of the children or information about their whereabouts. And 2 weeks later, they officially locate Lori and Chad in Hawaii. And they serve her with a court order to physically produce the children in 5 days to Idaho's Department of Welfare or to the Rexburg police. And
if she doesn't,
well,
what happens to her?
Well, a little hard to, but we'll get to it.
Well, I know, but what if she didn't? What was the order? If she didn't produce them, what was
the
the
order
should be?
that if she didn't do it, I suppose she'd be arrested.
Arrested, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So they seized their rental car, their Hawaii townhouse. They searched them. They found Tylee's debit card. They found JJ's iPad.
Wow.
And on January 26th, they were confronted by the Idaho news reporter, Nate Eaton. This is the guy that, you know, his career really benefited from this. And they refused to answer anything. I mean, you could see he made a recording, of course, and he comes with the microphone in their face, and they were silent. And the next month, February, the cats searched the Rexburg storage unit, the rental unit of Lori's, and they found all of the children's possessions that Alex had been seen loading into it. And on February 20th, 2020, Lori is arrested in Hawaii. March 5th of 2020, she's extradited to Idaho. She has charges in Idaho, 2 felony counts of desertion and non-support of minor dependents, and then 3 misdemeanors, which I forget what they were, but those are the least of her problems.
Right.
$5 million bail, and then they lowered it to $1 million. And in this whole process, Denise, this was really difficult to get a chronological narrative going, because every time you turned around, she was appealing and contesting, and you know, it was crazy. The local bondsmen, you know, who would provide you with the money for bail, right? They were not willing to deal with her, so you know, she couldn't get out of jail. Chad returned to Rexburg from Hawaii. He's still free because they haven't charged him with anything yet, and he tries to get the neighbors to put his house up for bond for Lori.
Why didn't he just do it himself?
What? He don't want to spend his own money. I mean, you know, she might be his goddess, but she's not worth all that, I guess. He actually tried to talk his next door neighbor into putting his house up as a bond.
That's insane.
I think about that. I mean, digest that for a moment.
That's insane. Why would somebody do that?
Well, he told his neighbor he did it. He asked him because Jesus told him to.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure Jesus had a lot to do with this.
Well, Jesus didn't want him going to the money lenders. So they confronted him with his
so messed up, but people
do
in the name of Jesus.
I know, about Lori's daughter being dead. You know, they confronted him with that. And he said, oh, you know, don't get confused. This is just a custody issue. Tylee really didn't like people, and she really didn't like me. And it's really just about custody. whatever. So June of 2020, Chad's property was searched, and there's some great online YouTube video about that. And recordings of a phone call he made to Lori. He was sitting in his car observing the whole thing from a distance. He didn't know the police knew that he was there. So now.
But Chad was doing that?
He's sitting in his car at a distance watching them pull his house and yard apart.
Wow.
And the property's being searched, and they find an unmarked grave in the pet cemetery. And I know this is going to surprise you, but it was not a raccoon.
Yeah.
Now this part, if you want to plug your ears for 10 seconds, Tylee had been dismembered and attempts were made to burn her body parts. They found her DNA. That's how they identified her, on a pickaxe and a shovel. JJ, on the other hand, was wrapped in plastic and buried under a plank.
Oh my God, that's a fucking evil.
He'd been buried with care, but she hadn't. And he had been asphyxiated with plastic and duct tape.
Wow.
They found Alex's fingerprints and Lori's hair on the tape.
So she did it too. She killed her own children. She did. Even if she didn't literally do it, she did it. Yeah.
Well, an argument, I suppose, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. An argument could be made that the hair was transferred from the house or the environment, but it certainly implicates her. June 13th, the cops confirm that, this is, plug your ears again, Tylee's hands had been cut off to avoid fingerprints, and her bones were...
Who the fuck could do this to a child? Like, this is just really sick shit.
Her bones had been fractured.
Oh my God, what the fuck?
They had no cause of death.
Wait, so who the fuck did that though? Who do they think actually chopped the head? Alex and Chad.
Their phones were both there at the burial site.
Wow.
The night she was buried. During the exhumation of the two children, Chad got on the phone to Lori. This is all available to hear on the internet. Lori's in jail. He calls her in jail, and they have this lovelorn conversation. He calls to warn her, hey, they're digging up the backyard. So she knew, and they never said the words Tylee or JJ, and they never said bodies or.
Well, she knew everything. She didn't need to.
Right. And so he watched the entire search from his car. And as soon as they got to the bodies and it was obvious they'd found them, he took off, and he was caught by the police because they knew.
Right. They
charged with obstruction and concealment of evidence.
Sure.
So far, and with $1 million bail. And July of 2020, he was given charges of desertion and non-support. And I'm sorry. Let me reword that. The charges of desertion and non-support, those must have been the misdemeanors against Lori, were dropped. And she was charged with obstruction and concealment of evidence of remains. Her bond was lowered to $150,000, but couldn't find a bondsman willing to pay it. Chad, in 2020, in August, was excommunicated from the Mormon Church.
Well, that's good. About time.
Also, the least of his problems.
The least of his problems, yeah.
May 25th of 2021. So they're both,
I feel like I need to sage myself now after this. This is so gross.
Now you know why it's so long.
These people are so evil. It's just unbelievable.
So they were both indicted May 5th, 2021 for
I'm actually, see, look at my hands. I've started putting 2 crystals in each hand because it's so icky. I can't even. It's just unbelievable.
Immunized because I've been
this
working
is so
on
disgusting.
It for so long. Yeah,
it's so awful.
Appalling, but there's a happy ending. If you can.
Well, it's not really happy, but justice filled.
Justice. That's what I mean. Right. Yeah. So both are indicted for conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft. Lori is also charged with the theft of the Social Security money. So the Social Security goes after her.
Right.
Chad's charged with insurance fraud. June of 21, Lori's charged with conspiracy to commit murder, Charles Vallow. And she said the charges are that she was involved to stop Charles from confronting her. Remember, he was, and her extreme religious beliefs, and to allow her to marry Chad and fulfilled the prophecy that he was getting in the way.
Right.
Chad was not charged with the death of Charles.
Well, it's because too hard to prove that he was involved in that.
That's right. September of 21, Chad's kids publicly supported him. They claimed that he had been fooled in the worst, most deadly way by Lori.
So the wicked witches, horrible.
And they call it the Doomsday Mom murders, but we're going to talk about that. And in 2022, Lori was indicted again for first-degree premeditated murder and conspiracy with her brother Alex to kill Brandon and to get the money from the niece, the life insurance policy from the niece, whom she had bamboozled. And look at this, exactly at 1 hour, we have come to the trials. Great place to stop.
Okay, perfect. Yes. My question is, as we wrap this up, it really seems like to me, now, obviously, Lori Vallow, it's one of those, what's the French word? Folle de deux, whatever.
Don't spoil my fun. I've got that coming up.
That it's really because these two psychos met up that all this stuff happened.
Yes.
They probably, if they never met,
it would have gone in a different direction.
It would have gone in a different. She still would have been a shitty mom. She probably would have done bad things, but I highly doubt there'd be a body count to either one of them.
Yeah, I did a bunch of research on that. We have stuff to talk about. We've got to go. The next episode, we'll go over the trials, which only ended last month. I mean,
right.
Our timing is really good because we have a resolution to what happened.
Right.
So they were tried separately. So there's two different sections. And then I have some recommendations of media sources that I think are really very good. But then we need to do the psychopathology and, who is to blame? There's a lot of differing opinion about that. It's a very interesting conversation. We have the information from Dr. Hassan. I always say his name wrong. Hassan. So there's still,
I think it's bull. I mean, like I said, my intuition is that together they're like, it was like putting pneumonia with bleach. You know what I'm saying? And if they hadn't met each other, they would not have, it would not have turned in, neither one of them would have probably gone this far. They're both psychopaths. They both have that. But psychopathology is one of those things where people can be psychopaths and never kill someone.
The vast majority of people who are psychopathic never kill anybody. They become CEOs. They become neurosurgeons. They become police and preachers.
Right. Or they could be moms that are really terrible mothers, like she was.
Yes, they can. That's right.
And they can be terrible to their children, but nobody knows. They can sort of pass off
chaos in interpersonal relationships.
Right, but they don't necessarily go killing people. You know what I mean? They're
I
fun.
actually have a book. I have a book that I got a while back. I have not read yet. I've been saving it for the right moment. And it's the first-person story of a woman who is a psychopath. And it's her experience of going through understanding herself and getting therapy and figuring out how to negotiate the world as a psychopath who's not a serial killer or anything like that, because almost all of them are not, but who had features of psychopathy interfere with a healthy life and healthy relationships. And I've heard her interviewed, which is why I got the book. And maybe we'll talk about that at some point.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those things where, it's a constellation of brain damage is a lot of what psychopathy seems to be, from the studies that are done. So, there's a lot of people who have psychopathic, but they can be redirected and, and most of the time they don't necessarily kill people, like you said, they love to manipulate. They love to play with people. They love to kind of torture people for fun, but it doesn't have to go to that extreme place for them to enjoy themselves.
And they toy with people.
They toy with people. That's their entertainment. But that not necessarily killing them. And I think that you could say probably both of those people, Chad and her. I mean, look, I just have this really strong hit off that guy, Chad, that he is basically a barnacle. You know what I mean? And he was a barnacle his whole life. And that he
Well, I
just
was thinking of another kind of what is that called? Not nemapod. No, what is the word for it? Like snails and slugs? I can't remember monopod. That's not right either. But I think of him as a slug.
yeah, I think he was just
No.
kind of a user and like a loser who found somebody to suckle off
Oh,
of.
pseudopod.
Pseudopod. Okay.
Yeah.
That's my, and then, he basically drained that woman who took care of him, and that's why she didn't believe. Okay, he was probably very docile, I bet you, because she was his, like, he fed off of her probably. That's
Yeah.
my feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, then he got a little bit of taste of something. He's getting his ego stroked with those books and people listening to him. And he meets Crazy and thinks, wow, this is everything I ever wanted. And now he can suckle off of her and they can use the life insurance, and
Yeah.
he doesn't need his wife anymore. That's obviously his motivation.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't murder his children though. I mean, but his children were old enough that he didn't need to.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Although they're very, very brainwashed.
Right.
I just wanted to mention that a while back, I created a couple of videos about the psychology of psychopathy and those particular kind of personality disorders. And it's based entirely on research, nothing of my opinion.
Right.
And it's sort of a foundation to try to understand. And, the whole topic is, of course, not completely agreed upon in the professional world, but I presented the differing opinions, and if anyone's interested, it's in my playlist.
If you saw how many books I have read on abnormal psychology and psychopathy,
It's
you would.
Crazy.
I have an entire bookshelf that's just all that. But to me, the best book I ever read, which I didn't buy, I was listening to it. I mean, I bought it on, audiobook, was The Psychopath Whisperer.
Oh, yeah.
Because that book is actually really science-based, and the guy studies psychopaths in prisons and does MRIs on them. And he came up with some,
wasn't it, that he went into the prison system?
Yeah, I think it was in Mexico. And he really, I mean, because there's all the speculation and personality disorder, but it can't just be personality disorders, because, and it can't just be childhood related. I never felt, because after reading so many books on the subject, you can't tell me that, some of these people who are serial killers had a bad enough childhood to make them do those kind of things. There's something else at play there. Like, for example, what's his name? We're just talking about him, Ted Bundy. I mean, his childhood was not extreme. I could see where Richard Ramirez would have been.
Well, Ted Bundy had some weird stuff go on in his childhood.
Not that weird, though. Not like Richard Ramirez, who saw his uncle kill his wife. And,
well, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Spectrum of weird, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, or, for example, to me, the big thing that really broke me out of this idea was Jeffrey Dahmer. Because Jeffrey Dahmer did not have that weird of a childhood. I mean, I knew people with much weirder childhoods than Jeffrey Dahmer did. Much weirder. And they didn't turn out.
Pretty weird childhood.
No, it was mostly because of him, though. That's why he had a weird childhood, because
his mother was nuts.
Yeah, I know, but my mother was nuts too, and I didn't turn into a serial killer. And my father died, and I was almost starved to death, but I'm not a serial killer.
So what are we arguing? We're arguing nature versus nurture.
Yeah, I know, but I think that there has to be, this is his case, because he came from the same basic area of the country I did, the Midwest. He's in the same age range as I am. And his childhood was pretty standard. I mean, I knew lots of people with crazy moms who had terrible dysfunctional families, way worse than him, way worse than him. I know people with much more dysfunctional families than him. And so his story was like, to me, well, this is not enough to do it. But he also started doing really bizarre things at a very young age, really young, dissecting animals and doing all this really weird shit.
And his father encouraged it.
Well, his father saw it through the lens of, oh, he's a little scientist. I mean, whatever. his dad was very dissociated.
Well,
I'm
obviously, we're going to have to do.
right. We'll do it. But to me, he was, because the other thing that convinced me of this was Jeffrey Dahmer knew it was wrong and he felt guilty. He had a good enough childhood and a
that's
good
true.
enough environment that he knew it was wrong. And he tried to stop.
Mhm.
And so this led me to believe this is a biological thing, you know, because he had enough good environmental training and good parenting to know he shouldn't be doing this, right? He did. He stopped. He went to his grandma's house and he got a mannequin and he tried to stop doing
Substitute.
this.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he woke up drunk and he had killed someone. And that's how it started again. So to me, that he is a good case study. And to me, he had the gene, he had the brain, whatever it was. He was born like that. And I think in the case of someone who's severely psychopathic like him, so severely, and has his own, and sure, okay, you take that and put him in an environment that's kind of weird. He's going to react to it. Okay.
Mhm.
So it's a combination of those things. But, you know, you'll get someone like Richard Ramirez and go, maybe he wouldn't have turned into a psychopath if his environment had been so completely insane. He had such violence and craziness in the family. So it's a spectrum, but I think you have to have you have to have the biochemistry to go that direction. I don't think you can just have one without the other. There's just no way. I mean,
Well, it's a focus of debate. You know, I don't have the answers. I understand what you're saying. I think there are arguments in the other direction too. I don't know which is correct. I don't think anybody is 100% sure, you know.
well, I mean, look, if it was totally environmental, there's a lot of people who I know who, and including myself, who probably would be a serial killer right now. You know what I'm
Well, you
saying?
just made your own case. No.
I mean, really, I mean, if you're talking about extreme abuse and neglect and trauma, you know, then I should be a serial killer. If it was, I mean, this was the thing that was confounding to me as a kid growing up, is like, I went through such hell and I would never, I don't even kill, like, I won't even kill like a spider in my house, you know. I would never harm anyone on purpose. So this has to be something beyond that, because like I said, I know people who have terrible childhoods, but and then there's people that don't have terrible childhoods. I mean, you can say, we won't name names, who have very privileged childhoods, and maybe they have neglect or they have, you know, they have their traumas, because we all do. Nobody has a perfect childhood, and they're psychopaths. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
I agree with you that it is debatable. I think I there are good people on all sides, Denise. I think that we'll go into it more. You know, we'll talk about this
Yeah, we'll
more. I
talk
think
about
it's
that.
a really
Yeah, I
interesting
think it has to
debate.
be, you have to have the lock and the key. I think there has to be the lock first in the brain where the key fits in and opens that up, because it's like schizophrenia is like that too. It's not one gene, but there's more evidence to suggest that psychopathy is a brain
Genetic.
damage issue and
Oh, I
genetic.
think 100% they're able to show
They're
that
able to show that in
that there
MRIs.
is anatomical
Yes,
difference and
right.
neurochemical difference.
Right, exactly. So we know that's a huge
But
factor.
there also
But not
is
everybody
also
goes to that extreme place and
correct.
does terrible things, because they have really good childhood, they have a really good support system, they have good training, and you can redirect people. So I agree that it can be redirected. But if you have that constellation of factors and then you put the dysfunctional key in that lock, then you get the full blown really bad psychopath. Yeah.
What was I going to say? That
There's both, I
oh,
think.
pardon?
I think psychopathy and sociopathy is probably genetic, and then why somebody goes and does the horrible things with it is the nature,
nurture.
the
Yeah,
nurture.
yeah. But an interesting little side comment is that they've done studies on people raised in very patriarchal environments.
Oh yeah, it changes your
Either
brain. Right.
strict family patriarchy and theocratic environments.
Sure.
And it
The same thing.
does the same thing. It affects the structure and function of your brain.
Well,
So
that explains a lot.
it does. It really does. And that's why it's so difficult to reverse the process.
It is, because there's literally I mean, your brain is wiring itself up until you're about 26 years old when it's kind of sets in. And once you're 26, your brain is neurologically wired a certain direction, and that's that. You're kind of done cooking.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
So-
not completely the end of the world.
No, it's not the end of the world. You can learn new behaviors,
Right.
and you can go through therapy, and you can sort
The
of
brain is
do.
plastic. It does repair things.
But
it
it
does
is-
make new connections.
It does make new connections, but your basic wiring is finished.
Right. Right.
And there's only so much you can kind of.
Well, here's a perfect example. If as a young child you're exposed to more than one language and possibly learn parts of that language, you make brain connections that for the rest of your life facilitate the learning of language.
That's right.
And if at the age
It's neuroplasticity. Your neuroplasticity gets less and less the older you get.
right.
And at 26, it really changes, which is why they say people are really not grown up until after that point where your brain isn't fully developed.
Right.
So the first 3 years of your life are the most critical neuroplastic period. And then you have different levels of it come through childhood. But I have to go because I have to teach the class in 5 minutes now.
Well, we could just go on forever and likely will. So
Yeah, we will. We'll talk about this more. And
Yeah.
this is an interesting debate because I think maybe we should try to talk about it and look at charts of serial killers and as one episode and just the
make
psychological
that an episode.
and
Okay.
make it an episode of just looking at the things.
Everybody's getting a glimpse behind the curtain. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Oh,
for
it was great.
watching.
Yeah.
We'll be back. Slonga foil.
Okay, bye-bye.